betrayed and foully murdered somewhere near this place, which is still a major crossing point from east to west or west to east. Ray Cross is one of the surviving landmarks of ancient Northumbria, which stretched from the Tweed all the way down to the Humber, with York as its capital. It is a boundary marker of the ancient kingdoms of Scotland and England. For centuries, England's last wilderness was a frontier between the nations, a battleground between Jocks and Sassenachs, with Georges and the hillfolk defending their claims in between. Yet, most people pass through oblivious to these facts and many others. Why Montrose, Robert Bruce, Mary Queen of Scots and even Prince Charlie himself have taken this high road or the low to bonnie Scotland. Some of the great northern families of England's last wilderness remained sympathetic to the Scots and Jacobite cause right up to the rebellion of 1745. The Earl of Derwentwater, whose domain included Devil's Water and huge tracts of countryside along the Derwent, including the wonderful estates around Blanchland, was beheaded in 1716 for his part in one rebellion, and his estates were confiscated. Tragic times indeed, but more historic grist to the tourist mill. Blanchland and the remains of its pre-Montretensian Abbey are now historic honeypots, focal points for a bit of castle gazing, culture and a cup of tea. And why not? History has a valuable part to play in developing the tourist economy of the Northern Pennines, with sensitivity and sustainability. So it came to pass that in 1986, one local authority seized the opportunity to develop the story of the Prince Bishops as a key tourist theme. A major step in developing not a theme park of fantasy, but a national treasure house of fact. With great success too. Weardale, the former hunting grounds of these medieval monastic monarchs, is now known as the Valley of the Prince Bishops. So, who were these Prince Bishops of Durham, and why were they considered so unique and so important that the local councils and the tourist authority decided to make them the centrepiece for a campaign to bring more visitors to the area? Well, in order to find out, I've come to meet the nearest thing we have in the 20th century to a Prince Bishop. This is the house of David Jenkins, Bishop of Durham.
Oh, the Prince Bishops of Durham were the people the Normans put in when they finally harried the north, from about 1080, I think, who were the bishops, who therefore inherited all the stuff that the Anglo-Saxon kings had given to the bishops, so they were the big feudal lords, and the Normans said, take charge for us, fight the Scots, produce the money, run the place.
They really were the rulers.
They were, yes, that's right.
Were they conservationists? Did they have the countryside at heart? Do we know?
I know they had the countryside right up the weir there at heart, because they kept it for their hunting, you see, and so they certainly preserved that. And there are various tenancies that you can find in things like the Bolden book, where a chap held some land, and part of the thing he had to do was to produce so much wood for the bishop's fire, or a pig when there was a hunting thing up there.
So how do you feel about this whole promotional package, the land of the Prince Bishops?
Well, when they first wrote to me about it, I said, wasn't that a rather backward-looking title, and couldn't they think of something more forward-looking and exciting? But I can see it's fair enough, but I think it's very important that the history is picked up, for the sake of the present and the future, and that'll mean that there must be conservation, I think, but not preservation. I think there's far too much looking back at the moment. It's terrific to pick. I love this place. The cathedral is unbelievable. But the great thing is it gives you strength of being in a part of something that's gone on for 1,000 years, literally, of course. Now, what about the next 1,000?
Living history, a legend of our times in a land which overflows with legends from the past. There's the blood-drinking raven of Helbeck, the great bat of Scarammanwick, the ghostly monk of Egglestone, and the spirit of Ronaldkirk, last lord of a local Teesdale line who fell to his death from a rocky scar while in hot pursuit of a ghostly white deer. Beasts of the past, all set about with the beauty of the present. No wonder Turner painted in these parts. Teesdale and Weardale were also the setting for two of the greatest epic poems in the English language, Rokeby and Harold the Dauntless by Sir Walter Scott. William Wordsworth, taking a break from his celebrated lakes, sang the praises of the mighty Coglin in the Eden Valley.
The floods are roused and will not soon be weary. Down from the Pennine Alps how fiercely sweeps Coglin, the stately Eden's tributary.
The Pennine Alps, complete with flowers and birds, a living community the like of which is found nowhere else on earth, and so is of such great importance that Parr has earned its place as an international biosphere and national nature reserve. Members of the Darlington and Teesdale Field Club out and about to celebrate their centenary, 100 years of recording and rejoicing in nature. The weft of life holding the wilderness together, now captured on cloth and canvas by local artists, making a living like Turner and Wordsworth before them. The difference is that they are locals, part of a new dual economy based on tourism, new ways to make a living and so to keep the landscape alive and in good heart. Another asset of any wilderness is simple peace and solitude. The still lonely corners of these hills have become centres for activity breaks of a different sort, where people can take a sideways look at modern life.
Slightly. Stretch it.
But if it's excitement you're after, there's plenty of that available too. Hot air, fresh water, cold comfort, rare breeds, iron horses, alternative tourism. But all visitors, all tourists must have an impact, so the question must be asked. Is this sensitive landscape and the peace and quiet it still holds really able to absorb the pressure of all those feet and eyes and ears which populate the new economy of the future? Local landowner Lord Barnard of Rokeby Castle.
Tourism is a particularly difficult thing to deal with. High force is perhaps all right because there's a concentration in one place, but otherwise, there's been very little money left from tourism at the moment because there's nothing really to do except to walk. And that can be a bit overdone, as you can see from the state of some of the paths. I do think that a lot of thought will have to be given to the way in which tourism is to be organised, if that is what people want. I can't emphasise that one more. Otherwise you might lose one of the most valuable parts of the country.
Well, we've got our areas of outstanding natural beauty in our ESAs, but there's still rumblings about North Pennines National Park. Now, do you think that would help or hinder?
Well, my immediate reaction is, and I must add that I haven't really studied what this might amount to, is that I would be rather sorry to have yet another body involved.
National park or not, getting the structure of support right is fundamental, not only to the survival of the local communities, but also to the future of England's last wilderness. One experiment in getting it right, which attracted national interest, was in Allen Head, one of the highest villages in England. The crunch came when the fluorspar mine in Allen Head finally closed in 1978, marking the end of centuries of mining. Without an economic base, the village was doomed to die. Villager Bob Madison.
We applied for a grant from the Royal Institute of British Architects, and a local architect made a plan of the village, how we thought it should be redesigned, how the old buildings should be refurbished, etc. There'd been no homes built in Allen Heads for probably about 150 years, and now we've got 6 homes for old folks, which of course released houses for other people to come into the village as well. Barns were refurbished into coffee shop and craft shop, and one big barn was turned into what is now the post office. The old bus station was turned into a heritage centre and cottage. I think it's been a good thing for the village. A lot of good things have happened because of it. The old folks' homes, if that had been the only thing that had happened, in my opinion, it would have made the whole thing worthwhile. There are other things that haven't worked as well. We haven't catered for future generations. Our sons, our daughters are still going to have to leave the village to find work.
Local people, future generations, yes, they are the crux of the matter. England's last wilderness has got to be able to make its living.
I will build my love above by yon clear crystal fountain, and around it I will place all the wild flowers on the mountain. Will you go, lassie, go? And we'll all go together to pull wild mountain thyme all around the blooming heather. Will you go, lassie, go?
In the 1940s, the architect of the National Parks Act, John Dower, had the simple answer: make the North Pennines a national park. But when the Act went through, the area was put onto a reserve list, and there it has remained, with the effects all too obvious to both visitor and local: a total lack of investment and a lack of proper protection for the landscape and the related local job opportunities. One descendant of Eric Bloodaxe's original Viking armies, with clear views on the way ahead, his local farmer, Raven Franklin. His unusual name was given after 3 ravens flew across the hill behind his father's house at the moment of his birth.
I've been very keen to see the AONB established, and of course now I'm glad to say we've got it for the Northern Pennines. The AONB is primarily designed to protect the landscape. It doesn't, like the national park, have the duty of improving access, promoting tourism, etc., etc. It hasn't got a lot of money to spend. It hasn't got anything like the staff devoted to all the matters which ought to concern it. It's a very, very much watered-down national park, really, with virtually none of the powers. I can unhesitatingly say that one's better off inside a park than outside it.
A keeper of more than one historical tradition, Raven is owner of Pendragon Castle in Malastang.
The castle is associated with the legend of King Arthur. It's, I think, unique in that it's the only place that claims to be the birthplace, the home of King Arthur's father, Uther Pendragon. And the castle was first recorded in writing as Pendragon Castle in the 14th century, so this is no legend which started with Tennyson.
But the Arthurian tradition lives on in the Northern Pennines, and not just in bottle shops and tourist attractions. Legend has it that King Arthur himself lies sleeping below some secret spot in the valley of the Derwent, there to await a clarion call to return to life and campaign yet again on behalf of Albion.
For so the whole round earth is every way bound by gold chains about the feet of God. But now farewell, I am going a long way where falls not hail or rain or any snow, nor ever wind blows loudly, but it lies deep meadowed, happy, fair with orchard lawns and bowery hollows crowned with summer sea.
A face in the rock, a union of past and present. Arthur Scargill, champion of the workers whose traditions had for centuries kept them on their home patch. Arthur traces his family tree back to the lords of the manor of Scargill in the 9th century. A Scargill theme park? No. A living legend? Yes.
I think, quite frankly, if we have a development bringing more and more tourists into the area, that's got to be good, because they can see our heritage, they can see our history, they can witness at first hand what we did and what we were capable of. And I think that the development of a national park could be one step in that direction. It's important for our young people and for people from abroad to come and see Britain in all its shapes and sizes and forms. And I think that for people to come to this part of Britain, this part of Yorkshire, this part of the northeast, is in itself a tremendous opportunity for them to see a part of our nation which is not often seen. And I think that when people come to terms with this part of the world, they see not only its rugged beauty, but also its tremendous history and the part that it played in making Britain what it is today. I suppose I'm the modern day Arthurian legend. I've slain the dragon, Mrs. Thatcher. She's already departed for pastures new, and very soon we shall have the first development towards a better world in which people can have a more civilized living standard. And so yes, I think that Arthur, in modern day terms, could begin the process of revitalization of Britain.
Today's King Arthur has traced his route back to Scargill Castle, while for this Englishman, my home too is my castle. Now, I've lived on the edge of England's last wilderness for more than 30 years. I reckon I could live another 2 or 3 lifetimes and not really begin to discover half of the diversity that's out there. And every time I take the family for a drive through the dales and over the mountain, I find small community groups struggling to keep their part of the heritage alive and kicking. And if something doesn't happen soon, many of those groups will disappear. That heritage will go. And that's why I do believe in a national park. Just look, a wealth of heritage and human endeavour. And if this nation don't believe it, they don't have enough pride to say, yes, the North Pennine National Park is going to be a reality, then all this living community, all this wonder we have seen will wither and die. The old year gone, a new year takes its place, full of hope that the home fires which warmed each and every hamlet in England's last wilderness in the past can be rekindled for a better future.